Hello and welcome to the next day on this painting, but you can't see it yet because I have to hit the button. There we go. I'm down here. Hey, second day on this painting. I spent some time doing the drawing. As you can see, I got some of it covered up with my color chart that we did. And I went ahead and pulled this color chart down from the top of my drafting table so that I could talk about it for a moment, but it's wet still. I know a lot of it's wet, especially these lighter colors. Those are going to be wet for a lot longer than any of the darker colors. And I don't want to smash it into my palette. So we're going to put it right here. I'm going to hold it right here and then kind of reference my image. Now, the one thing that I want to bring up here that I think is super important is I'm not trying to match these colors exactly. Maybe in some places, yes. But as you can see, this fabric here is a different color than anything that I could get on this color chart. Even down here on these reds with the transparent red iron oxide, not so good. Probably the closest thing, if I wanted to match it, would be right up here. This is transparent red iron oxide right out of the tube. Maybe that would work. I have no idea. I mean, it's kind of close, but I'm not even gonna go for that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna utilize the colors that I have and stick with the limitation that I have with this 4-color palette, because that's all I have is 4 colors, okay? Three of these colors plus white, and there's going to be limitations there. So the great thing about the color palette or the color chart is that it's telling me this right away. So if I'm doing a painting of a photo or of real life, and I say to myself, the most important thing is getting this red exact, then this palette is not going to work for me. I would need to add in like an alizarin crimson or some other color so that I could really dial in that color. For me, not a problem. I want to work with this palette. I want to translate those colors through the palette and on the canvas, what it can do. And I'm fine with it being a bit different, but it is going to be of a reddish color. But what would I pick? In this instance, for the light side of this fabric, I'm going to go with something right up in here. A little bit of yellow ochre, transparent red, iron oxide, maybe a bit of white. So it'll really warm up right in here, okay? Maybe for the cooler side, I'll go for things right down in here. So this is transparent red iron oxide with actually also a trace of yellow ochre. Gets a bit darker right there. It's really nice. And maybe here as well. So within those kind of darker colors, I think that would be really nice. I may even bring some of these blues and greens, these darker teals and greens with inside of the shadow areas to kind of, what's the word? Harmonize the shadow of the fabric with everything else that's super cool in this painting. But the main thing I want to do is have a clear separation between this fabric and everything else. The body's cool, the background's cool, the shadows are cool. There's some reflected light there. I may pick up on that. There's a little bit of reflected light from the fabric on this arm here. I may pick up on that a bit, but mostly clear separation. Clear separation, kind of like the glowing painting I did. I call it glowing. You'll see that on my website. I did a very warm figure and then a super bright yellow fabric. That was white fabric originally, but I changed it all to yellow. Check out that painting on my website if you want to see it. And for the background and the figure is going to be really interesting because these blues are really gray. Yet I'm looking at this palette, and to get the grayish blues, I'm right here in this margin. Transparent red iron oxide, phthalo blue, and maybe a little trace of yellow ochre will get me there. Maybe within here, maybe just these two. Transparent red iron oxide, phthalo blue will get me there. And then also within the body, very cool colors. Cool-ish, kind of down in here. I may even try and go over into these teals a bit, maybe into the greens. This is the first time I've worked with this palette. It's going to be super, super interesting. There's going to be a lot of translation from the image through this color chart, through the palette, onto my painting. I don't have a lot of time today, unfortunately, but we're going to try and get a block in on this painting. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to time lapse it from here, and then I'll show up at the end of the video to see if there's any interesting and cool things that I can bring to you from the beginning kind of block-in stages of this painting. Okay, see you in a bit. Holy cow, this is going to be a challenge for real. I thought that I could get colors somewhat close to the image, but honestly, man, I'm so far away from those colors that I stopped trying. The background is a greenish color. I was trying as hard as I can. Yes, Benny, my kitty is hungry right now, so he's going to make an appearance. Hi. Okay. Cat on the shoulder while recording a video. Let's do this. Yay. So I thought I could get some type of grayish color. Even the color chart has something a little bit more grayer than that. I went to kind of a green color, is a bit more gray. And I may go back to that because I tried going super blue, intense blue with the phthalo blue, and having more intense colors here, and having the figure be this kind of in between both of them, the real grays of the show, the most neutral of everything. That kind of popped in my head as a possibly good idea, but I think that blue is coming forward a bit too much, so I'll push that back to the green. But as you can see, like, there's no way that I can reach those colors that are in my image, and that's fine. That is totally good. Now I have a playground of new things to deal with, and all I'm looking at the image for is value representation, just relative value, okay? And in most cases, relative hues. You know, I got a warm hue here for the fabric, a warmish hue for the figure, and the coolest hue possible for the background. The shadows have some very cool hues as well. And I think it's really interesting. Yes. He wants food, as any other cat lover would know. Definitely. Oh, geez, Bubby. Okay, there you go. And it's interesting how quickly this goes to green. I would never have thought that, and you know, even after doing the color chart, it really didn't hit home until I tried to make a gray with this blue and the red, the phthalo blue and the transparent red iron oxide. It goes right to green. It does not gray out no matter how many other things I add to it, especially yellow ochre. That'll make it even more green, like an army type green kind of thing. And then even adding white to it, it still stays pretty green. So these are the colors I'm dealing with. This is a challenge that I have. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to try and bring out a painting that looks somewhat good and harmonious with this. I think I'll get better the more paintings I do, honestly. Okay, block in stage done. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is begin refining this. That's going to be on the next session tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you want to see more of my artwork, go to my website, chrisbevan.com. It's linked down below, of course, you know, like the YouTubers do. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.